Chapter 1 Once Upon a Time.
Once upon a time, in a vast and beautiful kingdom, there was a blacksmith's son named Igor, who was living in a little city with his family. His father, the oldest and most talented blacksmith of the kingdom, gave him a shining armor just before his death, saying he had an important destiny. This armor, crafted by his father's hands, was magnificent, but really heavy. Although he tried to train himself in order to improve his strength, he never managed to be strong enough to wear it. To be honest, he wasn't really believing in his father's last words. He lived peacefully for years, enjoying life in its simple form, spending time reading stories in books from the great Netflix library, and spending many evenings in the closest pub with his friends. A romance slowly started between him and one of the waitresses, and they started to regularly meet. Her name was Morgan, and they loved each other for a long time, living happily. After some months, they found out Morgan was pregnant, and, overjoyed by this news, Igor even proposed to her. They were planning to spend their life together in this peaceful region in a nice little house. However, fear was growing in the kingdom, as heavy forces were getting close to its borders. One day, a group of malefic creatures broke into the town, destroying every building on its path. Many citizens took the swords and the shields, defending the city against those monsters looking like giant, horrible rats. This huge fight was turning the entire city into a bloody, burned wasteland. Igor, untrained and way too weak, saw Morgan being attacked and ran towards her, trying desperately to protect her against the attacker. The rat easily kicked him out before ripping off Morgan's head with one powerful bite. He got back on his feet and stood there, his eyes wide open, pain flowing through his heart. He then slowly fell on his knee, sobbing miserably as tears rolled down his cheeks. He lost his wife and his baby. All his world was falling apart. This tragic event deeply devastated him, and he had no will to live anymore. He became a real barfly, wandering between the pubs of the town, slowly turning into an alcoholic and depressive human garbage. This situation lasted years, and no one was able to help him. Meanwhile, the forces of evil were getting stronger and stronger, and the humans were raising armies to fight against them. One day, after a hell of a hangover, he woke up feeling really dizzy. He had some blackouts, but he was remembering a strange scene. When he was wandering in the forest, totally drunk, a little dwarf appeared to him. He was frowning and shouted out to him in a furious voice.
Wake up, Igor.
I'm awake. What the hell are you saying?
Look at you, wasting your life drinking and brooding, complaining about your fate instead of changing it. Morgan will be ashamed of your behavior.
How dare you? You don't know anything about that. Shut up or you will regret it.
And what will you do? You're as drunk as a skunk.
Igor tried desperately to hit the dwarf, but he totally missed him, falling on the ground. He spent the whole night lying there until sunrise. This strange night was a king of disclosure for our hero, and when he woke up, he started to feel guilty about all these days that he spent for nothing. This night, he never knew if the dwarf was real or not, stayed in his mind for days. He wasn't going to pubs anymore and wasn't leaving his home. He focused on himself, wondering if his life was really worth living. He wondered what was holding him here, what was keeping him from living. He then remembered his father's last words, his ultimate gift of which he never felt worthy, the armor. He remembered Morgan's death, that horrible moment in his life where he felt powerless as never. He decided it shouldn't happen again. He began to be more and more demanding with himself, training several times a day, strengthening his body, his fighting techniques, and his way of riding a horse. He was preparing to face the forces of evil that were threatening human life. After those months spent turning himself into a tremendous fighter, he felt he was ready. ready to face any danger, ready to honor his wife's death. He could feel the strength flowing through his whole body, and when he tried his father's armor, it fitted him perfectly. He had come from a pitiful alcoholic to a knight? Yeah, he definitely was a knight. He was Igor Dosgor, the knight in armor, and damn, this name was fucking awesome. Filled by motivation and braver than ever, he took two decisions. He would never fall in love again, and he would give his life to erase evil from the surface of the earth. These resolutions taken, he could live, abandoning his native village to face adventure, his life's adventure. He didn't wait any longer and left at once.
Chapter 2 Kingdoms of the Known World. Before talking about this journey, let's take a step back to look at the world where Igor was living. The known world was divided into 5 kingdoms. Cloudland.io, located northward, this was the kingdom of mountains with cold winters, sharp and high peaks, rude but beautiful landscapes. As the mountains were sometimes hard to reach, this kingdom was able to resist to the evil, or at least to defend itself enough the major part of the time. Osgore, located southward, this was both the kingdom of forest and the kingdom where Igor was born. This kingdom was full of luxurious woods and was hosting the oldest tree of the world. The weather was balanced, never too cold or too hot, and it was the most populated kingdom. Slimeland, located eastward, this was the kingdom of swamps. The lands were mostly filled with water and it was often raining, whatever the season. The most useful way to travel out there was to use boats, making that kingdom the easiest access to the big ocean that was located at the extreme southeast. Thunderdome, located westward, this was the kingdom of desolation and wasteland. It had big desert, big underground cities, and evil forces were coming from that kingdom. It was kind of their kingdom, since centuries, and only a few human cities were standing out there with a few people. It was separated from the north by a big chain of mountains, and from the other side, especially the south, by a big wall, built by the other kingdoms to avoid monsters' invasion. Finally, there was Equilibrium, the kingdom located at the center. It was smaller than the others, but it was also more various, and it was the balance of that world. Igor was living here, close to the southern border. At the center of that kingdom, a giant castle was standing. That was the place where all the kings were meeting in order to make decisions to solve issues or organize their defenses. The situation was complex when Igor decided to go on his life adventure. The darkness forces had broken into Equilibrium to skirt around the wall in order to invade Osgore Kingdom. Human armies in Equilibrium managed to stop their progression inside the center, but some of them reached Cloudland.io, and the others focused on destroying the wall, allowing the monster to invade Osgore. A great amount of forest and some big cities were already taken, and the human armies were facing difficulties. Igor decided to begin where help was needed the most and where his roots were, Osgore's forest. He spent months there, sometimes fighting with the army, sometimes fighting alone, or with adventurers like him. Legends told he had a significant role in the Battle of the Hills, a gigantic fight that lasted for months, but also in defending the Tree of Life, one of the most important trees of the kingdom. He even met a crazy bunch of knights that everyone was recognizing as they were yelling before each assault. He fought giant rats, big scorpions, skeletons, and various evil monsters every day, without fear. He was using his rage against them and his training, and it worked efficiently. When the human army was stronger and more confident, able to defeat and resist its enemy, Igor, that was in the south, decided to go to the north of the kingdom, helping a lot of people, civilians or soldiers. He reached Equilibrium, and without even stopping in his town, he continued to head to the north, still helping the army, sometimes staying in the same place or region for months. He made a stopover in Thunderdome, helping the few human towns that were still resisting to the enemies. He had some rough days, as this desertic area wasn't easy with its inhabitants, but, helped by a local knight, born and raised in a wasteland named Mad Max, he succeeded in giving help and hope to the local citizens. They even reinforced the armies, inspiring people and training them hard. He left that kingdom with both sadness and happiness, as he was leaving a real friend, but was going to retrieve less dangerous lands and would be able to sleep well again. He then eventually made it to Cloudland.io, as he heard that some monsters were hiding there, attacking the pedestrians of the city from time to time. It became harder for him, as he never had experienced such cold temperatures, but he stayed strong, defeating groups of evil creatures, kicking them out of caves, bringing back the light. He was helped by the locals, as almost everyone here was citizens and soldiers at the same time.
Chapter 3 An Unexpected Meeting. One day, when he was in that beautiful abrupt kingdom, walking peacefully in a camp forest, he heard a blood-curdling scream. This was just like Morgan's one, just before she died. He started to feel the strength growing up inside his body. He had a flashback of Morgan's last moments and he realized he couldn't let that happen again. He ran out through the trees, faster as never. He was very determined, ready to save however it was. He arrived rapidly and saw this girl surrounded by two big trolls. He immediately started to fall in love with her magnificent braids, but he also remembered that he made a promise to himself to never fall in love again. He quickly focused back on the fight, throwing a big axe on the leg of the first troll, which diverted the attention of everyone here. He then threw a second axe on the other leg of the troll, preventing him from moving. The fight turned into a 1 versus 1 against the second troll. Igor was so trained that he made a short work of this creature. He finished the first one with a powerful sword hit and looked around him to be sure the girl would be safe now. The girl was scared, but he saved her. He walked toward the princess. She was magnificent with her wavy blonde hair, and her long eyelashes gave her hypnotizing eyes. He told her, hesitating,
What's your name?
I'm Chloe, the princess of Cloudland.io. And do incredible knights have a name like common mortals?
Haha, yes, obviously. I'm Igor of Osgore, the knight in armor. What were you doing alone here?
I just wanted to walk. It seems that you fell right. Thank you very much, Igor. How can I reward such a brave warrior?
I do not seek fame or any reward. The simple act of saving a princess as pretty as you fills me with happiness.
Unfortunately, I cannot let you go so easily. Would you be kind enough to accompany me to the castle?
Of course, princess.
Thanks to Igor, the princess of Cloudland Kingdom was safe and sound, and the kingdom was able to recover the calm of yesteryear. In order to thank our victorious knight, the king organized a great and majestic ceremony in a temple, followed by a gigantic banquet in his honor. At the top of one of the most beautiful mountains of the kingdom, Jules Mountain. This mountain wasn't like the others, its name coming from the name of the knight who saved the world from an ancestral dragon, Alduin. Moreover, the mountain was made of silver and gold, and the path that led to the temple was paved with diamonds. Igor walked on the diamonds path while people passed along the way were acclaiming him. Igor arrived at the end of the road and entered the temple, followed by some people. The king waited with his subordinates, all of them sitting around a U-shaped table. The king asked for silence and then asked Igor to come closer. He pronounced a great speech thanking Igor for saving the kingdom and praising his prowesses during the battle against the evil force that threatened the country. After the speech, the prince walked toward Igor. He was very thankful, as he couldn't imagine his life without his bride. He had a gift for Igor, a mysterious black ball with a little flame inside. The prince thanked him and then gave him the ball, saying it had to be thrown to reveal the true gift. Igor then threw the ball, and when it touched the ground, the ball exploded, creating some thick smoke. Behind the smoke, a dark silhouette appeared. This creature was a black horse. Igor, very proud of his beautiful newly acquired mount, walked toward the princess.
Decidedly, your kingdom is full of surprises, princess.
You're one of those surprises, Igor. Would you someday tell me more about your incredible adventures?
Yes, whenever you want, princess.
Then let's say tomorrow, 9 o'clock. And don't be late.
She then turned over and stepped in the royal coach to get back to the castle. Just before the door closed, she gave him a bright smile and waved. After that, they started to meet often. At first, they were mostly talking about Igor's deeds, but as time was passing by, they became closer and closer. Igor, who had promised himself never to fall in love again, started to think about her every single minute, every single day. There was no doubt. She was his soulmate. Obviously, the prince wasn't very pleased about those meetings. He started to do everything in his power to avoid them. When the princess saw that he was that jealous, she didn't stop seeing Igor. She just did it secretly. And every single time she saw Igor, she was more sure about a thing. She had to leave her husband and live her life with the knight who had stolen her heart.
Chapter 4 Blood and Dragons. One day, the princess escaped from the castle to meet our king. Igor offered magic flowers to the princess. These flowers were changing in appearance every hour. It was a very nice moment for the two lovers. A nice moment until the king, who wasn't able to resist more to the princess's charms, decided to kiss her in order to express his feeling of love. That was the first mistake he made. He saw his beautiful horse transforming into a giant and dangerous dragon. How it's possible, you will ask me. Well, I omitted one thing in that story. Remember the magical ball the prince offered as a gift? He asked a wizard to cast a spell on it that would trap Igor if one day he would try to kiss the princess. A huge fight began between Igor and the majestic dragon. The beast attacked first, spitting fire forwards Igor, who protected himself with his shield. He fought back with his big sword, but the dragon used its swing to escape from Igor's hit. The dragon then gave a tail stroke to Igor, who couldn't dodge it. The knife was propelled on rock and fell down on the ground. The dragon came closer, ready to give him the fatal blow, but the princess threw a branch of pebble to distract the dragon, and unexpectedly, it worked. The princess quickly ran to hide in a cave where she would be safe. Meanwhile, Igor lifted up and attacked the dragon on his back. The dragon was so angry that his eyes turned into fire, and he rushed on Igor to burn him to death. Igor attempted to stick to the ground too, but the dragon was way too fast for him and kicked him just beside the entrance of the cave. Igor fainted, and the princess started to cry. While the dragon was inspecting the wound Igor made him, the princess managed to wake up all night. Knowing he couldn't kill the dragon by himself, he asked the princess if she knew a way to get rid of the dragon. She was very scared, and focusing was amazingly hard. After a few seconds, that seemed like forever, a deeply buried memory came back to her mind. It was a spell she learned with a castle wizard when she was a child. Maybe this spell could break the curse. The dragon, who heard Igor talking to the princess, came closer. He tried to bite Igor, but the latter put his shield between the dragon's jaw, blocking his mouth. While the creature was trying to break the shield, Chloe whispered the spell into Igor's ear, who repeated aloud. During a few seconds, it was as if time was frozen. The dragon's eyes darkened, going from a flaming red to a brownish color. He was remembering that Igor had been an amazing rider during all these years, and he was reading deep inside him again. His breath slowed down, and he stopped trying to close his jaw. Igor, mistrustful, got closer to the dragon and slowly removed the shield. The creature looked at Igor with thanks, reliving him. A desire of revenge grew in the head of Igor. He wanted to kill the prince in order to keep Chloe with him for the rest of his life. He jumped on his majestic mount, ready to fly to his enemy's castle. Chloe was sitting behind him, holding him tight. She had never been so scared in her entire life. She wasn't sure she wanted Igor to kill her husband. After all, even if he was far from perfect, the prince loved her. He acted because he loved her. Her heart was filled with doubt. After a while, she couldn't resist anymore and started to cry, saying,
Please, Igor, don't kill him.
What? I thought you loved me. I will give my life for you.
I love you, Igor, but I love you as a respectable knight, not as a murderer. I don't know if I could ever look at you in the eyes again if you got his blood on your hands.
But he nearly killed us both. You would like to let him live?
Be a deserving knight instead of playing by his rules. Allow him to have a fair trial.
Alright. If that's what you decided, let it be so.
He was a bit disappointed. Seeing the prince dying would have been a nice sight. After all, but no matter. He loved Chloe enough to let him live. He then muttered,
We should keep quiet. The city is seeable on the horizon.
Indeed, they were not that far from the royal castle. The beautiful black dragon's wing flapped one last time and it gently landed on the roof. Igor got off the dragon and said, looking at it,
I have to do this alone. I will whistle when it's time to come back. My incredible mount.
The dragon nodded and took off with the princess on his back. The knight started to look for a breach in the rooftop. At first, he couldn't see anything, until he noticed a nearly invisible little hatch. He managed to get in and climbed down a ladder. He was just above the castle's main room, where a huge banquet was taking place. It seemed to be a very luxurious feast. He just let himself fall on the table, shouting,
Prince of Clownland, that's you! I think we have to talk.
What? What are you doing here? Get out of my sight!
The guests weren't saying a word, frightened. The prince got on his feet, his face getting redder every second. He was clearly upset. He threw his glass toward Igor, certainly hoping to cover him in wine. The knight dodged it easily. The prince then pointed his finger at him, yelling,
How dare you coming in front of me after what you did? Are you trying to make fun of me after stealing my beloved wife?
I want to fix things. We need to talk, to come to an arrangement.
No way! The only thing you deserve is a painful death, and I'll personally take care of that.
Igor remembered what he told to Chloe. Keeping his word had never been that hard. All he wanted was to cut this man's throat, but he would lose his love. He then had a brilliant idea that could allow him to make his dream come true.
You know what? Let's do that. But this time, not a man versus a dragon. Let's fight as equals, if you still have an ounce of honor. That's all that I'm asking, a fair fight. Whose outcome will determine which one of us wins the right to live with Chloe.
The prince certainly wasn't expecting that. He was more thinking about a public execution, but right now, he could feel the king's gaze upon him. He couldn't disappoint him. He had to accept this fight despite himself.
Alright, then let's meet tomorrow in the morning and let fate decide.
Igor didn't stay any longer and turned his back to the assembly. He left, walking like a prince.
Chapter 5 The Final Fight. Talking about Prince, let's have a look on Claude Dandatio's prince. He never had been good at single fight. In fact, he had never fought before. He was in a bad position, because Igor was hardly trained, while he had rarely brought a sword. He had to find a solution to win against Igor and protect his love. He searched for long minutes how he could beat Igor. Suddenly, he had an idea. The idea. He knew a terrible wizard of the name of Halliwell. She was living in the north of the castle. He went to her house, determined to win that fight. He asked her 2 powerful magical potions, one which will be useful, one which will be disadvantageous. The wizard said that she had recently concocted 2 potions that could fit. The first one was a strength potion, which was increasing the power of the drinker. She said that he will even be able to break a wall with his sword. The second one was a malefic potion that would petrify the drinker in 10 seconds. He took both of them, the Musculus 2000 and the Petrificus Totalus. It would be perfect for him and Igor, if needed. His Machiavellian plan wasn't over yet. He wanted to be sure to win, so he thought about how he could trap Igor. He borrowed to the wizard some enchanted bear traps. It was like a classical trap that will close on the prey leg, but it will almost stay invisible to everyone as soon as nobody will be trapped. On the place of the fight, the prince then put those traps. He now had every opportunity ended to beat Igor. The day after, Igor came for the battle. He had just arrived when the prince, full of wrath, immediately unsheathed his sword and rushed towards his opponent. Igor just had time to take out his sword to counter that sword stroke. Both fighters swung their sword for some minutes, Igor clearly taking the advantage, until the prince attracted him towards one of his traps. Igor put his foot inside and could not move anymore, the claws hurting his flesh. The prince, euphoric about the idea of giving him the death blow, smiled and took a potion, drinking it to get rid of Igor with all the strength needed. Chloe, that was some meters away with the other spectators, hid her eyes, scared, powerless. She wanted to run in front of Igor, to take the sword for him. But Igor read it in her eyes and looked at her, making her unable to do it. The prince raised his sword to the sky, started to shout, and what? The prince began to change himself in stone. He was so silly, excited about killing Igor. He drank the wrong potion. The princess then opened her eyes, shaking, relieved. She came close to Igor, trying to help him with his bleeding leg. Once she got him out of the trap, she looked at the stone prince, disgusted, and hit him strongly, twice. The stone figure broke, and the prince was quickly turned into a bunch of rocks. They then all heard the king, slowly singing, whispering,
"Skin the bone, steal the rust. Ash to ashes, dust to dust."
Igor was bleeding, but he had triumphed. Chloe was with him, comforting him, and the king, who had just lost his son, was in tears. Igor got up and slowly approached him.
"King, Do not say anything. Please."
It was a hard moment for many people here, but Chloe seemed relieved, as she had realized that the prince was not the brave man she coveted. She was really in love with Igor. The king stepped forward, grabbed Igor by the arm, and lifted him upward.
"I declare you as the winner, and so you may live with the princess."
Igor, wounded but happy, whistled a shrill sound, and his magical mount arrived under its horse form. He helped Chloe to climb on it, and the horse turned into the magnificent dragon. He got up too, and they went together, flying to the horizon. A beautiful shared future was ahead of them. According to the legend, they had many children, and they are still living today, roaming around the 5 kingdoms, bringing light on every path. The end.